Before we dive into the specific details of the H200 export situation, it's important to set the context so we can fully understand why this story matters, not just for Nvidia, but for the global AI ecosystem, U.S. China relations, and the technology sector at large. Over the past decade, AI has transitioned from a niche research topic into a strategic global priority. The United States has been a clear leader, with companies like Nvidia, Google, Microsoft, and OpenAI at the forefront. Nvidia, in particular, is unique because its GPU architecture powers not only AI research, but also commercial applications, autonomous vehicles, data centers, and a wide range of scientific computations. This makes Nvidia a critical player in both economic and strategic terms. Its technology is so advanced that it's often described as the backbone of modern AI. At the same time, China has been aggressively pursuing AI leadership. Over the last 5 years, the Chinese government has poured hundreds of billions into AI development, ranging from natural language models to facial recognition systems to AI-powered military research. The country has domestic chip manufacturers such as Huawei, Cambricon, and Hygon, but these companies still face technological gaps compared to Nvidia and other U.S. chipmakers, particularly in high-performance data center GPUs. This creates a natural tension. China wants access to cutting-edge technology to accelerate its AI ambitions, while the U.S. wants to maintain a competitive advantage. This tension has manifested in U.S. export controls. For the last several years, the U.S. government has restricted the sale of advanced AI chips to China. The reasoning is simple. High-performance AI chips are dual-use technology. They can be used for commercial applications, yes, but also for military and surveillance purposes. Allowing them to flow freely could enhance China's technological capabilities in ways that might challenge U.S. security, influence, and even global leadership in AI. Now, Nvidia finds itself caught in the middle. On one hand, it has a massive market opportunity in China. Estimates suggest the AI chip market there could be worth $50 billion today and may grow to $200 billion by 2030. For a company that has built an ecosystem around its GPUs and CUDA software, missing out on this market is not just a revenue problem, it's a competitive problem. Competitors, both domestic Chinese companies and other global players, gain ground, while Nvidia remains restricted. On the other hand, U.S. policymakers are concerned about strategic and national security risks. This is where the H200 story becomes significant. Reports now indicate that the Trump administration is considering allowing Nvidia to export its H200 AI chips to China. At first glance, it may appear like a simple regulatory change or a business decision. But it's actually a complex policy balancing act. The administration must weigh economic imperatives, including recovering tens of billions in potential sales, against national security priorities. There's also a diplomatic dimension. Easing restrictions could help de-escalate U.S. China tensions in the tech sector, while signaling that America is willing to engage pragmatically with its largest competitor. Crucially, any H200 exports are unlikely to be unrestricted. Analysts suggest that the U.S. will approve a chipped-down version for China, meaning top-tier performance may be deliberately limited to prevent strategic advantage. This mirrors previous limited H20 exports, but the H200 represents a major step forward in AI chip performance, which makes even a restricted version highly significant. Finally, it's important to consider the broader implications. A decision like this doesn't just impact Nvidia or China. It sets a precedent for how the U.S. balances technology leadership with commercial interests. It affects the global AI race, investor confidence, and even domestic policy on research and development. Every stakeholder, from investors to engineers to policymakers, is watching closely. In short, before we look at the individual details of the H200 export, we need to understand this story as a nexus of economics, geopolitics, and cutting-edge technology. It's a test case for how the U.S. navigates the fine line between protecting national security and enabling global commercial competitiveness. This is the backdrop against which the following 5 slides will make sense. Let's begin with the first slide. The Trump administration's consideration of allowing Nvidia's H200 chips to be exported to China. At the core, this is a story about geopolitics meeting commerce. For years, the U.S. has barred the sale of high-performance AI chips to China under export control rules. These rules are designed to maintain American technological superiority and protect national security, because advanced AI chips have dual-use potential. They can power everything from commercial cloud services to military AI systems, including surveillance, cyber warfare, and autonomous systems. Nvidia has been effectively blocked from a market that, by sheer size and ambition, represents one of the largest potential customer bases in the world. Estimates suggest that the Chinese AI data center market could reach $50 billion this year and potentially grow to $200 billion by 2030. For Nvidia, missing out on this market is not just about revenue, it's about strategic positioning. If domestic Chinese manufacturers like Huawei or Cambricon can scale, they could eventually erode Nvidia's global market share. So, what does this potential policy change mean? The administration is reportedly considering a controlled export approval. This would allow Nvidia to sell the H200 chips in China, but likely in a restricted or chipped-down form to ensure the U.S. maintains an edge. Essentially, it's a compromise, allowing economic activity without fully relinquishing technological superiority. From the White House perspective, this is also a diplomatic maneuver. U.S. China relations have been tense, and trade restrictions on critical technology have been a major point of friction. Approving limited exports may serve as a confidence-building measure. It signals a willingness to engage economically while still protecting strategic interests. It's an approach designed to balance multiple objectives: commercial opportunity, national security, and global leadership in AI. The stakes are high for Nvidia. Without access to China, the company's zero-revenue situation in the region not only affects the bottom line, but also weakens its influence in the global AI ecosystem. By contrast, allowing the H200 export opens the door to billions of dollars in potential revenue, strengthens Nvidia's positioning, and reaffirms U.S. technology leadership. However, the administration must tread carefully to avoid creating vulnerabilities that competitors could exploit. Finally, it's worth noting that this decision has broader implications beyond Nvidia. Other U.S. AI and tech companies, investors, and policymakers are watching closely. The way the U.S. handles this situation could set precedents for semiconductor exports, AI development, and international technological competition for years to come. The Trump administration's actions here are not just about one chip. They are about the United States defining its global strategy in the era of AI. Moving to slide 2, let's focus on Nvidia's perspective, specifically the comments from Jensen Huang, the company's CEO. Huang has been clear and candid about the importance of accessing the Chinese market. In his view, it's not just about revenue, although billions are at stake, but about maintaining global AI leadership. He has repeatedly pointed out that without access to China, U.S. companies risk losing out on a significant portion of the AI market. Analysts estimate this could be $50 billion today, potentially quadrupling over the next decade. Why does China matter so much? Beyond the sheer size of the market, China has made enormous investments in AI development and infrastructure. Universities, government labs, and private firms are all pushing to build state-of-the-art AI models. If Nvidia cannot sell its top-of-the-line GPUs there, domestic manufacturers gain a competitive advantage, which could, over time, weaken the global dominance of American technology. This is particularly critical in high-performance AI, where GPUs are the bottleneck for training massive models. Huang has emphasized that the H200 represents a substantial upgrade from prior generations. While the previous H20 chip could be exported in limited form, the H200 offers double the performance, higher memory capacity, and increased bandwidth. For context, this enables more complex AI models, faster training times, and greater operational efficiency. From Nvidia's perspective, allowing China access to even a restricted version is crucial for sustaining revenue, ecosystem growth, and AI leadership globally. There's also a strategic timing component. The market is expanding rapidly, and AI is no longer a niche sector. It's central to everything from cloud computing to autonomous vehicles to defense applications. Nvidia's internal analysis shows that missing the China opportunity now could have long-term repercussions. If competitors scale there first, it could be years before U.S. companies can catch up. Huang's position, therefore, is that access is not optional. It's essential for long-term strategic positioning, both for Nvidia and for U.S. artificial intelligence dominance. Finally, investors and analysts are paying close attention. The zero revenue issue in China has been a consistent talking point on earnings calls. If the U.S. permits H200 exports, it could significantly improve Nvidia's top line, investor sentiment, and stock performance. The broader takeaway is clear. Corporate interests, technological supremacy, and geopolitical strategy are all intertwined here, and Jensen Huang is at the center of advocating for both economic and strategic rationales. Now let's dive into the technical details of the Nvidia H200 chip, because to understand the stakes, we need to understand what makes this chip so significant. The H200 is based on Nvidia's Hopper architecture, which represents a leap over the previous H100 and H20 generations. Hopper is designed specifically for high-performance AI workloads, things like large language model training, generative AI, and massive data center computations. What makes Hopper so revolutionary is not just its raw performance, but the way it handles parallel processing at scale. GPUs, unlike traditional CPUs, are built to handle thousands of simultaneous computations. For AI, this parallelism is critical because training neural networks involves huge matrices and massive amounts of data that need to be processed in tandem. The H200 improves upon the H100 in multiple dimensions. It has 141 gigabytes of HBM3E memory, that's high bandwidth memory, which allows for ultra-fast data access within the chip. The memory bandwidth is 48 terabytes per second, which is more than double what most commercial GPUs can achieve today. To put this in context, a single H200 can handle computations that would require multiple previous generation GPUs, reducing infrastructure costs and energy consumption per model. For AI companies, this is a game changer because training large models can cost tens of millions in cloud computing resources. From a global perspective, H200's performance means that whoever has access to these chips can train more complex AI models faster than competitors. Even a chipped-down version intended for China, as is being discussed, would represent a major upgrade over what's currently available there. This has profound implications. Domestic Chinese AI chip manufacturers like Huawei or Cambricon would suddenly be competing with hardware that, in some respects, is still superior to their best offerings. That creates a situation where Chinese AI companies can accelerate development without fully replicating Nvidia's cutting-edge technology. The chipped-down version is critical to U.S. export control strategy. Essentially, the U.S. could allow access to China, but deliberately limit the highest performing capabilities, ensuring that the most advanced features remain under U.S. control. Think of it like giving someone a sports car but limiting the engine to half its horsepower. They get to drive, but they cannot match the full speed and performance of the original. This kind of restriction balances commercial opportunity with national security concerns. Beyond raw specs, the H200 supports the entire Nvidia software ecosystem, including CUDA and AI frameworks optimized for Hopper. That's another critical factor. Hardware is only as valuable as the software that runs on it. The CUDA ecosystem, which includes libraries, tools, and APIs, is what allows AI engineers to actually use these chips efficiently. For companies in China, even limited H200 access would open doors to Nvidia's software tools, creating switching costs and making it harder for domestic alternatives to replace Nvidia in the medium term. Finally, we need to consider how H200 fits into the broader AI chip landscape. U.S. competitors like AMD and Intel are also working on AI-focused GPUs and accelerators, but Nvidia remains the leader in high-performance data center AI hardware. China, meanwhile, is trying to catch up with its domestic AI chip manufacturers, but they face both technological and production constraints. H200, even restricted, allows Nvidia to maintain a lead while still tapping into a lucrative market. In short, the H200 is not just a faster chip, it's a strategic instrument in the global AI race. Its memory, bandwidth, and software ecosystem make it indispensable for next-generation AI, and any U.S. policy regarding its export will have long-lasting consequences for both commercial and geopolitical competition. Slide 4 is about the wider implications of allowing H200 exports for the AI industry globally. This is where the story shifts from Nvidia and U.S. policy to the potential impact on the Chinese AI ecosystem, domestic competitors, and the broader global AI market. First, consider the immediate effect on Chinese AI development. Access to H200, even in a limited form, would allow companies in China to train large-scale AI models that were previously beyond their hardware capabilities. Training a large language model, for instance, requires significant GPU horsepower and memory bandwidth. Until now, Chinese firms have relied on either domestic chips or older generation Nvidia chips, which restrict model size and speed. H200 opens the possibility of faster, more sophisticated AI models, enabling applications in natural language processing, computer vision, autonomous driving, and industrial automation. In practical terms, this could accelerate China's AI capabilities by several years. Second, this has implications for competition among domestic Chinese AI chip manufacturers. Companies like Huawei, Cambricon, and Hygon have been working to catch up to Nvidia's technology. If Chinese companies gain access to H200, their incentive to invest heavily in domestic alternatives might be reduced in the short term. On the other hand, it could also spur them to innovate faster, creating a dual effect of both acceleration and competition. Essentially, China could benefit from technology transfer while still pursuing indigenous chip development to close the remaining gaps. Third, for Nvidia itself, exporting H200 chips represents a major revenue opportunity. With zero revenue in China for H200 so far, unlocking even a limited market could generate billions in annual sales. This revenue isn't just about profit, it also allows Nvidia to invest more heavily in R&D, accelerating development of future generations of AI hardware. That reinvestment feeds back into the broader AI ecosystem, enabling more research, innovation, and commercial AI deployment globally. In essence, it strengthens Nvidia's position and the U.S.'s technological leadership indirectly. Fourth, the decision sends signals to global AI investors and stakeholders. Venture capitalists, tech companies, and international governments closely watch how the U.S. handles high-performance AI exports. A controlled export policy might be interpreted as a measured, strategic approach, balancing competitiveness with security. It shows that the U.S. is willing to engage pragmatically with China, encouraging global AI collaboration while maintaining guardrails. However, it also introduces uncertainty. Companies need to understand whether the export is permanent, conditional, or restricted, which affects planning, supply chains, and partnerships. Finally, we need to consider the broader geopolitical and strategic context. AI is increasingly seen as a critical domain for national security, economic competitiveness, and global influence. Allowing H200 exports could be viewed as a diplomatic gesture, but it could also provoke domestic criticism. Policymakers, analysts, and security experts are likely to debate whether this policy compromises U.S. security or strengthens U.S. China technological engagement. Moreover, it sets a precedent for how advanced technology might be selectively exported in the future, influencing semiconductors, quantum computing, and other strategic industries. In summary, H200 exports to China are more than just a business decision. They have profound implications for AI development in China, competition among domestic chip manufacturers, Nvidia's revenue and R&D capacity, investor confidence, and global technology geopolitics. The move illustrates the delicate balance between economic interests, technological leadership, and national security concerns, and underscores why this story is being closely watched by multiple stakeholders worldwide. The final slide is about the strategic context of the H200 export decision. This slide zooms out from the technical details and immediate business considerations to the broader implications for U.S. China relations, global AI leadership, and technology policy. First, let's examine the geopolitical dimension. For years, U.S. China relations and technology have been tense. China's rapid development in AI, semiconductors, and quantum computing has been framed by U.S. policymakers as both an economic and security challenge. Export controls have been a primary tool to maintain a technological edge. Allowing H200 exports is therefore a significant departure. It suggests a more nuanced, flexible approach. The administration is signaling that economic and strategic pragmatism can coexist with national security objectives. Second, there's a diplomatic dimension. By permitting controlled H200 exports, the U.S. could reduce tensions with China in the tech sector. Trade restrictions, particularly on semiconductors, have been a major irritant in bilateral relations. This move may be part of a broader effort to de-escalate conflicts, promote dialogue, and encourage cooperation on standards, artificial intelligence governance, or joint research initiatives. From China's perspective, even limited access to H200 could be seen as a win, allowing them to train larger AI models and compete more effectively on the global stage. Third, consider the domestic political and economic ramifications. Policymakers, industry groups, and security experts will debate whether the benefits outweigh the risks. On one side, proponents argue that Nvidia's revenue, U.S. AI leadership, and global competitiveness are strengthened. On the other, critics may worry that China gains critical capabilities that could eventually challenge U.S. technological dominance. This balancing act highlights the tension inherent in modern technology policy. Economic growth and innovation must be weighed against security imperatives. Fourth, there's the broader industry impact. Allowing H200 exports may influence other companies and sectors. If the U.S. adopts a selective export approach, other semiconductor firms may lobby for similar access, creating a precedent. This could shape global AI supply chains, investment strategies, and collaboration between U.S. and international tech companies. Additionally, investors will closely monitor how these policy decisions affect Nvidia's earnings, valuation, and competitive positioning, which in turn may impact the broader market for AI technology companies. Finally, this situation underscores a long-term reality. AI is not just a technological frontier, it's a strategic asset. Control over high-performance AI chips translates to influence in global research, military applications, and economic competitiveness. Every decision about exports sends signals about U.S. priorities, the balance between openness and protection, and the role of private companies like Nvidia in global strategic ecosystems. In conclusion, the H200 export decision is more than a business transaction. It's a strategic chess move, carefully balancing diplomacy, economics, national security, and technological leadership. For Nvidia, it's a potential revenue and ecosystem boost. For China, it's accelerated AI capability. For the U.S., it's a test of how to navigate high-stakes technology policy in an era defined by AI competition and global interdependence. Understanding this context is critical for anyone who wants to grasp the full significance of this development, from investors and engineers to policymakers and global tech observers.